When someone insults you, what they are truly doing is not attacking your identity, but testing your emotional stability. Most people fail this test instantly because they think the battle is about words, when in reality it is about control. The moment you rush to defend yourself, explain your intentions, or raise your voice, you have already surrendered the frame. The insult was never the weapon. Your reaction was. This is the psychological game that few understand. An insult is bait designed to measure how easily you can be moved. If they can disturb your emotions, they can disturb your decisions. And once they influence your decisions, they influence your direction. That is why thinkers like Niccolò Machiavelli emphasized control over impulse. Power was never about shouting louder. It was about remaining unshaken. When someone insults you, they are subconsciously asking one question: can I control this person? And your reaction becomes the answer. If you react emotionally, you confirm their influence. If you remain calm, you create psychological confusion. Because the attacker prepared for chaos, not composure. And when composure appears where chaos was expected, the power dynamic shifts instantly. The room begins to feel different. Observers stop analyzing the insult and start analyzing your reaction. That is the moment control quietly changes hands. Insults are not random bursts of negativity. They are psychological probes. They test your boundaries, your insecurities, your need for validation. Nobody wastes energy insulting someone they see as irrelevant. Insults are aimed at movement, growth, ambition, or perceived threat. When you rise, insecure minds feel exposed, and instead of elevating themselves, they attempt to pull you down to restore comfort. This is not personal hatred. It is psychological defense. In The Prince, it is explained that perception governs power more than truth does. When you react angrily to criticism, the audience does not see your strength. They see instability, but when you remain controlled, something subtle happens. The aggressor begins to look emotional. The contrast becomes visible, and in that contrast, hierarchy forms. Silence is not weakness. It is a calculated refusal to participate in emotional chaos. When you do not defend yourself, you send a dangerous signal. I do not need your approval. That signal unsettles people more than any comeback ever could. Because ego feeds on acknowledgement. Even a heated argument feeds ego. But silence starves it. And starving ego creates discomfort in those who rely on reaction to feel powerful. Most people misunderstand why insults hurt. It is rarely about the words themselves. It is about the part of you that is uncertain. If someone calls you incompetent and it stings deeply, it means there is a part of you still seeking validation about your competence. The insult did not create insecurity. It exposed it. This is why emotional mastery begins internally, not externally. The powerful do not eliminate criticism. They eliminate dependence on approval. When you fully accept your strengths and weaknesses, no external voice can destabilize you. And when nothing destabilizes you, your presence changes. There is a quiet gravity in a person who does not flinch. You can feel it without explanation. History repeatedly shows that leaders who mastered composure commanded more loyalty than those who displayed emotional volatility. Look at figures like Marcus Aurelius, whose strength came from restraint, not reaction. Emotional restraint is not suppression. It is discipline. It is choosing long-term power over short-term satisfaction. Because responding with anger may feel satisfying in the moment, but it lowers your position in the long run. Stability, however, compounds. There are moments when silence alone is not enough, and this is where precision becomes essential. The powerful do not argue endlessly. They conclude calmly. A short, controlled response delivered without emotional charge can end confrontation without escalating it. If someone says you have changed, the insecure defend themselves. The strategic reply, growth requires change, and then you disengage. No explanation, no apology, just certainty. Certainty unsettles those who expected insecurity. Tone matters more than content. Volume reduces authority. Calm increases it. When your words are few but deliberate, they carry weight. People listen more carefully because you do not waste speech. And when you refuse to match someone's aggression, you create psychological imbalance. They prepared for resistance. They received composure. That imbalance forces them to reassess their approach. Over time, this pattern builds reputation. You become known as the person who cannot be easily provoked. And once that reputation solidifies, fewer people attempt to test you. Not because you threatened them, but because your stability discouraged them. Understand this deeply. Insults often reveal more about the speaker than the target. Projection is one of the most common psychological behaviors. People criticize in others what they secretly struggle with themselves. Envy disguises itself as mockery. Insecurity disguises itself as sarcasm. When someone attacks your discipline, ambition, or confidence, examine the pattern. Often, you are witnessing confession. And once you begin seeing insults as projection rather than evaluation, they lose their emotional charge. You stop internalizing them. You start observing them. Observation creates distance. Distance creates control. The observer always holds higher ground than the reactor. This is the transformation that separates ordinary individuals from psychologically dominant ones. You are no longer defending your identity. You are studying behavior. And when you study instead of react, you gather leverage. Because knowledge about someone's insecurity is far more powerful than a temporary emotional victory. The moment you detach personally, you gain clarity strategically. And clarity is a form of power that most people never access because they are too busy defending their ego. Consistency is where true dominance is built. Anyone can stay calm once. Very few can maintain composure repeatedly. But repetition creates psychological deterrence. When people attempt to provoke you and consistently fail, they eventually stop trying. Humans are efficient. They abandon strategies that do not produce results. If emotional attacks do not move you, those attacks lose purpose. Over time, your calm becomes expected, and expectation shapes reputation. When your presence carries a pattern of stability, people adjust their tone automatically. They become more measured, more cautious, more respectful, not because you demanded it, but because your behavior trained them. Emotional control trains the environment around you. It sets invisible boundaries without confrontation, and invisible boundaries are the strongest kind because they are rarely challenged. This is how hierarchy forms naturally, not through loud displays of dominance, but through consistent emotional endurance. The person who remains grounded while others fluctuate becomes the anchor in the room, and people instinctively gravitate toward anchors. Finally, understand the ultimate shift. The moment you stop reacting to insults is the moment insults stop controlling you. Control is not about overpowering others. It is about mastering yourself. When you refuse to be emotionally manipulated, you remove leverage from anyone who tries to use it. And when leverage disappears, so does their influence. This does not mean you become passive. It means you become deliberate. Every reaction becomes a choice, not a reflex. And choice is power. The world will always test you. There will always be criticism, mockery, and doubt. But the person who cannot be emotionally shaken cannot be psychologically defeated. That is the real victory. Not winning arguments, but maintaining authority over your own mind. Because once your mind is stable, your decisions become sharper. Your presence becomes heavier. Your words become fewer but stronger. And, slowly, almost invisibly, the dynamic reverses. The same people who once tried to provoke you begin to hesitate, because they sense something different, a calm that feels immovable, a silence that feels intentional, and intention is what separates the powerful from the reactive.